Today, I'm going to discuss with you about what is the work rights, that what we do, Asylum Access Malaysia. So first of all, before we start, this is our motto, our signboards that, every human has rights, right? So what we are doing, I'm going to present with you with next slides. So this is who are we, right? Asylum Access is an international non-profit organization. It's an INGO that advocate for refugee rights in Malaysia and across the other country as well. Like we have office in Mexico, in Thailand, Malaysia, and our HQ is in USA. So we have around 4 countries. We have offices in 4 countries, and we are advocating refugee rights in across this country. So we also would like to remind that we are not affiliated with UNHCR. What does it mean? So we do like this kind of collaboration, but we are not working like under the UNHCR. Something that I would like to give you the clear example is, let's say, for example, whatever you share the data, we will keep within our organization. We will not share our data with even with UNHCR without your consent. So we are, the independent organization that working on these kind of cases and supporting refugee across the world. And next, we are also not affiliated with the Malaysian government as well. The same things it goes. So we definitely advocate refugee rights in Malaysia with the the local authorities and government agency, but definitely we do have to get a consent in order to share our data, everything. That's how we work independently. Next slide. Okay, so regarding our services, we do not charge. If someone is saying that from Asylum Access Malaysia and asking money for services, then you can report to us. Later, I will share how you can contact with us. So in order to receive our services, you do not have to pay. No fee are charged for any services that we provide. So what are the services that we provide? I'm going to share a bit about that. I think I might have cut it off. Oh, yes. So here is our services, Asylum Access Malaysia. So our services include workshops and individual advice and counseling for refugee status and UNHCR process and legal representations for certain cases. And these are the services that we provide, and our focus area and navigating on UNHCR process, as I mentioned, and starting domestic law and process. And let's say, for example, some people are not sure about whether they can get birth certificate in Malaysia and whether they can get divorce in Malaysia, things like that. We provide certain kind of, these domestic law to, consult to our individual clients. And also arrest and detention for certain criminal offenses is very limited. What does this mean? This is kind of the minor offenses, not even like kind of major, which is like a murder or like kind of robbery, things like that. We can't provide our services, but we do provide in the very limited ones. Let's say, for example, traffic offenses and like other like minor offenses, right? That's we provide some of the supports. Next is employment dispute. That's what I'm going to share about with you guys today. Employment dispute is something about the workplace kind of exploitations. If you don't get your salary after you work for the employer and then you're unlawfully dismissed from your workplace, this kind of situation, we provide kind of like a case management and individual support. And we also do provide like this, like today's section, we do provide kind of like empowerments and know your rights, right? What are your rights? And workshop for the community, how to prevent themselves or how to voice out themselves if they are experiencing any kind of workplace exploitation. Next, about the legal empowerment on community matters. So when it's come to the legal matter, we do like provide some kind of advice, suggestion to the community and based on community requests. And it's also like kind of the tenancy disputes and kind of mass eviction, something like that. And we do provide some of the services for individual cases. So these are the services that we provide. So what are services that we don't provide? So we do not provide the following services, like a financial assistance. We don't provide a financial assistance. We don't give any cash to our clients. And next is a medical assistant, as we are not a medical organization or we do not have the knowledge. So unfortunately, we couldn't provide any medical assistance or mental health supports. And next, assistant with the finding job. And yes, although we are working on a workplace exploitations or workplace related cases, but we couldn't help you to find the jobs because we do not have that capacity. Next, we do not provide a shelter as well. And as we do not have our own shelter and we don't have it, but for this kind of services, if you need, we can still refer you to some of our partner service provider for you to find out and for you to, get the services that you need. Normally we do refer, but we do not provide these four services. So why we are here today, right? So this is the topic that I would like to share with you for today's section. So to learn how to protect ourselves at workplace and to learn how to voice out workplace exploitation if we are encountering, any kind of workplace exploitation. So what does it mean workplace exploitation? So workplace exploitation could be, let's say, your employer is not paying you your salary. It's one form of workplace exploitations. Let's say your employer asks you to do very long hour without paying overtime. It's a workplace exploitations. And let's say your employer simply, let's say, deduct your salary, unlawful deduction, or simply like terminate you, fire you from the workplace. These are the kind of workplace exploitation. Another workplace exploitation could be like a physical harassment, sexual harassment. This is also considered as a workplace exploitations. And another thing is could be also workplace injury. And some of the employer, they don't want to taking care after the employee got involved in the workplace injury. So this is kind of like negligence we stay considered as a workplace exploitation. And some of the employer is not allowing you to take your sick leave. And this is also a form of workplace exploitation. So let us go into that. So next, my question is whether we refugee and asylum seeker can work in Malaysia. So when it's come to this, right, whether we can work in Malaysia, and this is the parliament minute that we can share and is publicly available. So this is written in Malay, but we have translated the important part about this document. So one of the parliamentary member asked Human Resource Minister about this question, whether refugees are allowed to work in Malaysia. So here is the response from the Human Resource Minister. So the country existing policy on refugee who hold the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee cut, UNHCR cut, including the Rohingya ethnic groups, Myanmar, and others are as follow, right? So working in the informal sectors, like working as a contract worker can be, and self-employed, but with the purpose of survival. So they make it that word clearly with the purpose of survival. So we are, according to this document, so I'm not claiming not AM said, right? According to what this document said, refugee and asylum seeker are able to work in Malaysia in informal sectors. So what's the informal sectors? We are not able to get a clarification on this because the Directive 23 from National Security Council of Malaysia, they did not disclose about this document. So we don't actually know what's been informal sector. But the informal sector could be like working as a dishwasher or maybe working as a kind of the kitchen helper or part-time worker, this kind of like a industry. So could be in the informal setting, and that is informal sector. But although we are working in the informal sector, we still can ask our employer to give us a contract when we provide services for and the company, right? Because this document stated that we can work as a contract worker. So it means we can enter into the workplace as a contract worker. So we still can ask our employer to give us a contract for our employments. Next is a self-employed. What does it mean self-employed? Self-employed is mean that you have your own small kind of business. Let's say you do a freelancing works, and let's say you are selling some of the things, small things, or like some of the kind of the foods from your home country, things like that. These are kind of small and self-employed. Sorry, not a small business. It's a self-employed. I mean that's we still can work, but with the purpose of survival. All right. I hope this is clear for everyone. So before you make report to us, okay, we need certain information. If you encounter any workplace exploitation, like a unlawful dismissal, unpaid salary, and workplace physical harassment or sexual harassment, things like that. If you want to make a complaint, we need these three information from you. Then only we can help you to resolve. So I'm going to add one more is about evidence. Okay. So before you make a complaint, you have to document all the documents that you have with the company or with the employer that you work for and you provide the services. So why we need a company name? Let's dip into it. Okay, so why we need the company names? Here is the reason. So before approaching Asylum Access Malaysia, you need to get all these informations, company names to us. So providing the company names help us to find out whether the company status, state exists or not, right? Some company might cease their business or some company might close down. So we don't know whether the company state exists or not. So according to the Malaysian Employment Act, we only can chase after the company, not the individual. So this is how the way we function it. So we try to see the company status first. Then if we can say communicate with the company, we will directly communicate with the company. So having the company name is very important for us to check the company status. It's important to know the name of your company organization for approaching our office. So this will help us to find, as I mentioned, to contact and also to find out the company status and also to communicate with the employer. That's why it's important for us to get your workplace name or company names before you make a report to us. When you make a report, you definitely have to share with us the company name. Then only we can help you on your case. Second, so employer names. Why we need the employer name? So normally, right, in Malaysia context, people just simply go in for interview and without asking the employer name, and then you just get the job. For example, you just got the job, and then you're working for the place, and normally you call your employer as a boss all the time. You even don't know the employer name. So one day let's say you got terminated unlawfully, and you want to claim back your rights. You want to get your salary and compensation. But in order to make a complaint, who should we contact? We should know a person who gives you that job. So the person name. Like let's say, for example, in a factory, if you work in a factory, the factory has so many employee and they have so many supervisor. We don't know who we should approach. Who is your supervisor? So in order for us to make a direct communication with your supervisor or your manager or your employer, we need to know your employer names. So last time there was, I'm not going to disclose about my client in the personal detail, but I'm going to use that case, right? So one of my clients made a complaint to us, and then when we trying to figure out his case and trying to find a solution, but we were stuck because we don't know the employer name. The company is not that big, and it's just a kind of the food store on the street, So we trying to ask our clients, what is your employer name? He said he usually called the employer as Abang. And Abang is been very simple, his brother in Malay. So after, we try to communicate with the employer that your employee, this name, have worked for you. He said, I don't know the person. What can we do next? Nothing, because we couldn't have that evidence or the names of the employer. So it's very difficult for us to communicate with the employer. Some employer, they just want to, cut off the communication. They don't want to take any responsibility or accountability, right? So that how the way they can ghost us. So in order for us to prevent that, we need employer name. So make sure we know the employer name and the person who hired for you. I mean, important thing is not only the employer name, we also should know who gives you the interview and what are the the promises that they give you during your interview. And you can also take down all the notes. And after the interview, what you can do is you can put all that into the written forms, like a WhatsApp message or even a voice note, right? You can send the employer, oh, you mentioned that you will pay me 1,500 ringgit per month and with the OT and, with the other benefits. So you have to have kind of a written form, right? If your employer can give you the contract, that's really great. And if you don't receive any contract from your employer, you still can work for them, but you make sure you have some of the written form that you agree on this terms. So it's important for you to keep that terms and which he has, responded, which the employer has responded to your terms and condition. That's important. So when we have encountered like a unpaid salary, unlawful dismissal, workplace injury, in this kind of situation, we can use the evidence that you have, the contract, the terms that you work for, and that you agree with the employer. We can use that to construct your case and to, discuss with your employer. So it's important for you to know your employer name. Next, knowing the employer name is just not enough, but what should we do next? We should get employer contact information as well. So here is the reason why we have to get employer contact details. Providing the contact detail will help us to communicate the same things and settle your employment dispute more quickly, right? If we don't have all the detailed information about who to reach out, how to contact, that's another barrier for us to figure out. Even to figure it out, it takes some time. So we will not be able to assist your case to resolve very quickly. And as I mentioned, if we don't have that employer contact, what will happen is we have to going around. Sometimes people just pushing, when we communicate, let's say we call the company, oh, we would like to know, or we would like to speak with this employer. Said, oh, this is the manager from our company. The person is no longer working with us, things like that. So how we can reach out again to the company, right? So it's important for us to keep all the, detailed contact information of the employer. And communication collaboration are essential for us to address your workplace issue, a matter, problems, conflicts, right? Everything. So without the communication, we cannot resolve the matter, right? So having a contact information, as I have mentioned, I would like to restate that communicate directly with the the party that we would like to communicate, and then we can also express the willingness of our side to settle the case amicably. Okay, why we try to always seek kind of the settlements? Because litigation process and complaining to the JDK, sorry, a labor department and industrial dispute courts is a lengthy process. So we always trying to negotiate because it will also take up a lot of our time and resources. So we're always trying to discuss with the employer without compromising our client rights, employee rights. And if they don't agree on that, we proceed with the next step. But later I will explain what we do. There is our structure of the way we work on the case management. So that's why we have to get company address, contact number, email address. Contact number is not just enough. Sometimes if the employer, even we know the employer name, employer contact number, we try to call the employer. Employer said, I don't want to speak with you. They cut off the communication or block us. What can we do? We must get the company address. Then we can send an official letter, letter of demands on behalf of our clients. On behalf of the employee, we send a letter to the company. We communicate them through the letter. That's a way for us to also reach out to them. And another thing is an email. Sometimes it's very far. It's not in the Klang Valley. How we can reach out to the company? We can reach out to the company, your workplace, to the email address. So we also should have the email address. Or like, you also can provide us with the company, like kind of websites and social media page, things like that. If we have more evidence and more contact information, it's the more easier for us to resolve your case. Successfully. But the successful, it doesn't mean that providing all the information could be successful, but it will depend on the nature of the dispute as well. So I have talked about all the information that you have to gather from your workplace, how you can get all this information. So normally, I think refugee, I myself from the displaced background, so we are a bit like feel shy to ask the question, like about the employer details, or to ask the employer directly, right? So what can you do? You also can find out your company detail or your employer details and your employer contact information in this practical scenario. So first, on the first day, maybe you might, when you look for a job, you might be interviewed by the HR officer or your employer directly. On that day, you don't have to like ask like what's your name, things like that. You also can ask, may I know the company? May I get the company business cards? May I know what's your name? If you are brave enough, you can do. I mean, it's easy. It's no offense, right? So, but also you can ask the company business card. It's a way for you to obtain the detailed information of the company. Next, you're also trying to search about it before you interview. You also can search about the the workplace or the company or restaurant or shop that you want to work for. You can search on a website or company website, or you can also search that on the social media and see what are the information that you can gather, what are the information that you can get. It also helps you to prepare for your job interview. If you know more about the place there that you are aiming to work or going to work, so you can get all this kind of background information of the business that you are planning to work with. So even that kind of gathering information can help you on your interview day. So you can provide more information about the business and why you want to work for that. So things like that also is help you to be a successful candidate for your workplace interview on the same things. I mean, at the same times, and the same point of view, that you also can gather information to keep for record, and if there is any like a dispute happen in future, you can use that detailed information and the record for resolving the matters. If you don't get any of the above, the business card, website, email address, some of the shops you might maybe walk in the like a hawker shop, right? It's like a small store in a big place, and there are many small stores. Your employer, for example, does not have any kind of like business card or websites or any social media platforms. Then you can take the banner of your workplace, and you also can keep some of the photo that you walk there. So here I also would like to add on this, mean keeping all your workplace record is also important. Let's say punch card and salary slips, which include your company names, things like that are very important. And then, as I said, contracts are very important. If you have more evidence, your case will be very likely to be success in resolving, right? So in order to success, you need to keep all this workplace evidence for you to be able to claim your unpending salary or other workplace related matters. So these are the recommendations that we would like to suggest you to keep from your workplace. So in order to provide services for one places, or to work for the company or the workplace, you have to keep all this information. For example, number one, email address. Number two, phone number, WhatsApp number, okay. And number three, websites. Number four, actual address. Number five, a business card. Number six, name banner of the workplace or the company or the business, right? And next is workplace like evidence to support that you work for that company. There is another case as well, like the person is working for the company for 2 months, but the person do not have any evidence to support that he provides services for the company. Some of refugees sometimes are very innocent. They don't know about these things, right? So some of the employer, they take advantage on that, and then they don't provide anything. And then at the end of the day, they want to make claims. They cannot provide that, they work for that specific shop or specific store or workplace, and then we can't do anything. It's going to be like a kind of dead end cases. So it's important for employee to keep all this information and also the evidence that you work for that workplace or you provide the services for that specific business. Okay, this is another practical scenario that we also can do. Let's say if you are newly joined the company, you don't know much about the company, right? You can ask your coworker, you can ask your colleagues, let's say here, like the two person, right? Co-worker 1 and co-worker 2. So look at that. Co-worker 1, okay, uh, is kind of like senior, right? I mean the old staff. Like co-worker 2 is like kind of the new staff. Let's say they want to exchange that information. Let's say co-worker 2 want to know the employer contact number. Then the co-worker 2 can ask the co-worker 1 who has been working in that workplace for a long time. So in this way, also you can try to gather the information that you need of your workplace. So next, right, we learn about whether we can work in Malaysia or not. So we refugee asylum seeker can work in Malaysia as in the informal sector, and then as a contract worker and as a self-employed in Malaysia for survival, right? And according to the Employment Act Section 12 Sub 1, so we have to give notice to our employer, and the same thing, employer should give us notice to us in order to terminate the contract. So here, according to the subsection 2, right, the section of the section 12, if you work for that company less than 2 years, you have to give 1 month notice of resignations. Okay, if you want to resign from your workplace, right? So this thing happened to a lot of refugee community because they are fear of if they are going to say that they are going to quit the job and then they will not get their salary. You don't have to afraid for that. You just give them, do this the proper procedure with the Employment Act, right? You just provide your employer written notice, especially you have to do it in the written note because some of the employer might argue, oh, I don't know. I thought you were just saying, there's no concrete evidence that you are going to resign. I don't really aware of that. Sometimes they might, push back when we are trying to resolve the issue, like an unlawful dismissal. So always you need to give them the kind of written form, in a written form. It's okay. Not many of community member will know how to communicate in Malay or English, but in a community there are a few people or there are some people can help to write. It doesn't mean to be very professional, but you can just say, oh, dear boss, I'm going to stop working, for example, okay, from the end of next month. So it's enough notice. And then the boss will say a lot of things, something like that. But if you still want to resign from the workplace, you can say that I want to resign. Why is, for example, your employer said, what are the reason? You can provide this other reason. Maybe that could be negotiations or anything that can happen. But if you just stated that you want to resign and then you continue to say that I want to resign, so you can resign after 1 month. And then some people, some people concerned, right? If I don't get the salary, yes, then you can approach to us. Then we are very happy to help you to get back your salary. But as I mentioned, please don't forget to take all the informations from your workplace and also the workplace evidence that you provide services for the workplace and you work for that workplace. Okay, this is important. So if you work for that workplace more than 2 years and below 5 years, so you have to give 6 weeks notice. It's been 1 month and a half. Okay, 1.5 months, right? You have to give notice to your employer for your resignations. Okay, if you work there for more than 5 years, you have to give 2 months notice. So these are the employment acts. So if we don't give enough notice, let's say for example, I don't want to work this place. You work there for like almost like 20 days and you just resign immediately. Sorry, we really can't help you because it's employment act says you have the obligation to inform your employer in order to resign from your workplace. The same thing. Let's say, for example, your employer said, "Oh, okay, from tomorrow you can quit from the job, or you don't have to come to my workplace. I don't need you anymore." Then definitely you can approach to us. We can help you on that. You should get 1 month compensation at least because your employer terminate you without notice. Okay, so these are the way how we work. So it's important according to the Employment Act. This act is, as a simulation law. So we all have to follow, and we all have to give enough notice for us to resign from the workplace. Okay, I think you can take this number and you can WhatsApp and you can communicate to us. This is how the way we work. So first, when you have employment dispute issue in your workplace and that you encounter in your, your life. So what you can do is you can fill out the employment dispute form that we have. And some of the community officers, CPO, right? We already have shared our community, our employment dispute form with them, and the link is which is a Google form. So you have to provide all the information about your workplace. Then only we are able to assess on your case and we're able to support you. So once you have filled out our employment dispute form completely, then you can just submit to us. So once you submitted, okay, once you have submitted the employment dispute form, you have to wait around 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Then one of my colleagues will reach out to you, and then if you are not providing enough information, they will contact you to get more information. If you have provided enough information, they are trying to get consent from you whether they are okay to communicate with your employer. Sometimes some people complain about workplace exploitation, but they are still working in that workplace. So we don't want our client to be in a difficult position. We don't want to harm our clients. So we always try to get consent, and we try to communicate with the employer. Once we communicate with the employer, some employer a bit, pushing back us, and then a bit, they said, oh, I don't care. You can complain anything that, they might say some kind of very bad words, and sometimes they might be very angry because we reach out to them. So it's not a pleasant thing. So, but some employers are very, professional people, and they do communicate with us professionally. And then, yes, it's very hardly for us to resolve it amicably without reaching to another step. But some employers, they just cut off the communication with us, and they don't want to entertain our communication. And what we do, as I mentioned, we will communicate with the employer with a letter. We call it letter of demands on behalf of our clients, which was sent to the business address. That's why we need the address, right? So, and once we send it the letter, we always say that within the 2 weeks, which is kind of the SOP of the Malaysian officers, where the government officers are also practicing to respond someone's official inquiry. So if they don't respond to us within the timeline, what we will do? So we will take the legal action. What does it mean, legal action? So with this, all the documents, we will approach to like a labor departments and also industrial dispute court departments. First, we approach the department first, and then for the labor department. So you might say, oh, what are the differences between these two, right? So number one, for the industrial dispute departments, we file the cases such as the unlawful dismissal or constructive dismissal. Okay, so the term unlawful, you know already. Unlawful is mean like without any notice, you are fired from your workplace by your employer, right? So that is, we call it unlawful dismissal. So what's mean constructive dismissal? It's mean like sometimes some of the employer very smart they are, okay, they are actually taking the advantage, right? They will push you to resign, stop working by yourself. Let's say not paying your salary every on 7 days off the next month. Let's say you work for this August month, right? You must receive your salary next month, September, before 7 September or on the 7 September. You must receive latest by 7 September of like your August salary. If you don't receive on that, you also can reach out to your employer. You write the employer, what is happening with my salary? When will you be paying me the salary? Because you have the right to ask. And if your employer is not paying, and after you communicating with the employer, you can reach out to us, we can communicate. So don't just let your employer to exploit you, right? So you have the right way, you should have the right way to respond to the employer. And it's okay for you to respond to the employer and to ask the employer why you're not receiving your salary. If your employer is not responding and you don't have any money to pay for your rent, food, anything, and you have to find for another job, and then you leave from the job. So asking that employer first, you send a letter why you will get the salary. Employer is not saying anything, so you send another letter. Employer said, so it means you are terminating me unlawfully. Are you, you know, terminating me unlawfully or not? So you can ask the question to your employer. So employer said, yes, you are free to go. Then you can definitely complain to us. We will reach out to your employer and we will ask your employer to pay your pending salary. So if you are, for example, during the process, right, because you cannot stand anymore about how the employer, treat you, right, how bad they treat you, then you just quit from the job, and then you want to claim back your salary of, let's say, 15 days or 30 days. We still can help you on that, because it's an employer violation, which is, we call it constructive dismissal. They're trying to push you slowly to stop working for them. So that is, we call it constructive dismissal. So next, as I mentioned, we file the cases of the unlawful dismissal and constructive dismissal to industrial dispute department. And after, when we start filing, normally what the process look like is they call for kind of like a meeting together with the employer and then the employee, conciliation they call it. And when the conciliation is not worked out, so they refer the case to industrial dispute court. Then there's a court cases, happen. So in Malaysia, the employee unions, they can represent the employee, and also individual lawyer can represent at the court. But if you are well aware of the law, everything, you also can represent by yourself as well. And next, for the labor departments, we complain to labor department cases like unpaid salary, workplace, workplace kind of the injury, and do not get any support. And next is, like, say you don't get your overtime, you are asking to do the kind of like a very long hour, things like that. Other work related matters arise in the workplace, then we can complain that to labor departments. But for the refugee and asylum seeker cases, to be honest, some of the labor department, they are accepting our cases as a complaint. So there's two ways to fight our cases. One is a complaint, one is a claim. So claim is mean they must take the responsibility to get back the claims to the claimants, right? So for the complaint, it's mean they just investigate the issue, right? So there's no, there's no concrete kind of directives from the HQ. So all this, the district officers, is depend on the officer. Sometimes they really help us, sometimes they don't really help us. But we are also pushing on that. We are advocating on that in order for the officers to look into refugee cases and to support refugee cases. But the good thing is recently we have successfully managed to file one refugee cases as a claim, and that's how we are starting. The process of pushing this advocacy point. Yeah. So that's about legal action, and we also have another. Okay, so this is also like publicly known case. So one of the clients is about the unlawful dismissal. So 3 years back from now, so he was here as a refugee. Now he already resettled, but the case stay ongoing. So what happened is he filed a complaint at industrial dispute court, and the court awarded him with some amount of money, and then employer refused to pay, and then there is non-compliance. His next process has been to ensure the employer to pay the award. We have filed it, we also get the awards, but the employer is still not paying. So next process has been kind of the civil suit against the employer in order to like freeze the kind of property to pay our client. So we are building on that case law, and we hope that it will go through but stay in the process. So that's how the way we work. Next, I want you to watch this short video, protection guideline video, because You also can access this video to our Asylum Access YouTube channel. I also would like to, encourage everyone who have attended today's sections to share this video. We have around 8 languages or 9 languages, this video in different languages. So you can go to our YouTube channel. So I'm going to stop here and then we'll share another, another tab. Find this video in our YouTube channel. You can call it Asylum Access, and then on the YouTube, then you can search all this video, and you can just click on a video site, and then you can search all this video. We have in English, Burmese, Urdu, Tamils, and Arabic, and what else? Somali, yes, things like that. So I want you to watch this for a while, for around 2 minutes.
How to protect your rights at the workplace. When looking for a job, make sure you get the details of the company and full information about any agent before joining the company. Ask questions about your job, salary amount, salary payment, and working hours. Should you require any translation, please contact your community center for help. Once you start work, remember to keep a record of any documents related to your job, such as any agreement, salary slips, payment vouchers, invoices, punch cards, and/or com cards. Take photos of your workplace, any uniform, photos with colleagues and/or employer, and screenshot any WhatsApp conversations and/or messages related to your job. If you are not paid your salary when it is due for the month, you should take action. Send a written message or a voice note to your employer asking for your salary. If you do not receive a reply or your salary, write to your employer asking about the status of your job. Should your employer ask you to leave immediately without paying your salary, send them a message to confirm that you have been dismissed from your job. Remember to follow up with a letter to your employer to ask for a reason for termination as soon as possible. Scan the QR code on the screen for more information and support. For further action and additional support in resolving this workplace violation, please reach out to AAM, making human rights a reality for refugees.
Or enjoying the video that I just shared. So next, thank you so much for your attention and listening patiently.